Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, October 27th, 2017, and this is episode 36. My name is Carol and my Ravelry name is Knits and Pearls. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog, and I also include them in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. Come by, join in the chatter, show me what you're making, or if you like, you can take part in the Agatha Christie Along, which is a knit along, crochet along I'm holding in conjunction with reading my way through my Agatha Christie collection. So don't be shy, come by, join in our little group, and it's a nice way for me to get to know you better. Today's episode is going to include several works in progress, particularly two I've been working on quite a bit this week. A little bit about what I have up and coming. I've done some more sewing this week. I've read quite a bit. And yeah, I guess that's it. Not very much else to talk about. I'll talk a little bit about my week, but actually it's been quite uneventful, which has been a nice change. So settle in with a nice hot cup of tea or coffee or a cold drink. If you are in the southern hemisphere, you might prefer that. This week, I'm actually drinking some tea that was a gift from one of Cameron's customers. We met them I met them on our recent trip to the Dominican. And one of our conversations was about tea. And the following week, Cameron found a little gift left at his office, and in it was some Earl Grey tea for him, which is his preferred tea. And they brought me this Yorkshire Blend Orange Pekoe tea from Taylor's of Harrogate, which is quite nice. I'm enjoying it. And as I was preparing it this morning, it made me think about quite a new viewer named Jen. She's from Yorkshire, and she's been very friendly, left me some very nice comments on YouTube. So this is, I guess, in honor of Jen. So welcome, Jen. I'm glad you're enjoying the podcast. I'm enjoying this tea this week in my chickadee mug. This is, chickadees are one of my absolute favorite birds that come to our bird feeders. They're just so cute and have the nicest little sound. They have one that they use in the spring, kind of like almost like a whistle, and then their little chickadee dee dee at other times. A few years ago, we had a whole family, and all the little ones would kind of hang out on the bird bath, and then the mom would be at the feeder, and then she'd come down and be feeding them. They were just so cute. Okay, so let's start talking a little bit about what I've been working on. I almost didn't even mention these socks because honestly I've hardly worked on them at all this week, but I thought they deserved, actually more than anything, I think the yarn deserves a mention. Trying to promote a local business here. So my socks, plain stockinette socks, I'm knitting from Black Cat, custom yarn, everyday sock in the Sedona colorway. And this dyer has recently opened a brick and mortar shop here in Chilliwack, British Columbia, where I live. And she also has an online presence. So I showed this to you last week. This is my finished first sock. Just lovely, fun, cheerful colors. And then I think I had just cast on the second sock when I spoke to you last. And then while I was doing editing and the podcast was uploading, etc. a little bit, I got the cuff done last week and first few rounds of the leg. So what I always do once I've recorded the podcast and uploaded it to my computer, I start watching it through and knowing where to add like the subtitles underneath, etc., or cut out parts or join segments together, etc. So I need something to work on while I do that, and plain stockinette works really well for that. So that's usually what I'm working on when I'm doing the editing, is just a plain sock. And something I showed you last week that I hadn't shown you for a while was my sock yarn blanket. So I've done some more work on that this week. when I spoke to you last week, I was working on this little triangle down the side. And since then, I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, I guess, 6 more squares. I finished this one this morning. Those of you who've been watching for a while might recognize that as the yarn I used for my Mr. Harley Quinn socks way back in the early days of podcasting. This yarn, I should have brought the label. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I am dying to cast this yarn on. It's called Daylilies. Daylily. And I'm dying to cast this on for the Agatha Christie along. I want to use it for one of the Miss Marple related patterns by, is it Olivia Villarreal? I hope that's the right name. She has a number of Agatha Christie patterns, nice simple lace designs. So this is what I really, really, really want to knit, but I'm making myself finish my the Vicar's Wife socks first, but I have one completed and one I haven't even cast on yet, so it might be a while, but maybe now that I've knit with it, at least in a blanket square, maybe that will tide me over till then, because I have it out by my knitting, my seat in the living room where I knit, and I just am dying to cast it on, so at least I've gotten a little taste of it now. Something I worked on quite a bit this week was the, pardon me, Chimera cardigan by Carol Feller. And this is a knit along that she's releasing the clues gradually. So we've had clues 1 and 2 released, and clue 3 comes out tomorrow. And I'm knitting it in Blue Moon Fiber Arts Cake Worsted in the Bittersweet colorway. So I'm just going to reach down here. So it's rather an odd looking piece of knitting. It's like a long tube joined to the middle section and another long tube. Really, it looks like a shrug because that's basically what it is at this point. So this is the yoke and sleeves of the sweater. So there's the front, and then there's the back. So this back panel was the first clue, and then clue 2 involved casting on for the 2 fronts and then joining them to the back panel and knitting the sleeve. So I'll slip this on, give you an idea. So I think it will fit quite nicely. Sorry, I got a little frog in my throat there. So you can see it's got a round neck here. The cable, or it's not a cable, it's a knit and purl stitch pattern that runs up the front of the sleeve and also the back, and across the front yoke and across the back. So I'll just maybe turn around a little bit, and then you can see what the back looks like on. So hopefully you can see that in the camera okay. So as I've mentioned a number of times, I had reservations about the colorway when I received it. It was more rust and burgundy than orange and red that I was expecting, but I really do like working with the yarn, and the color certainly is very autumnal, and the more I work with it, the more I like it. So I'm anxious to get to clue 3, which involves picking up all these stitches along the 2 front yokes and the back yoke, and then knitting down from there. So that's when the sweater will really take shape. And what's nice is the sleeves are already done. So that's often a sticking point for a lot of us knitters. We get stalled out on the sleeves. So that's all over and done with. So be a lot of motivation to get the next clue done and see the sweater really take shape. So happy with how that's going. And then last week, I told you about this new pattern that was being released by Curious Handmade or Helen Stewart. It was the Surprise Party Shawl. And I just couldn't resist casting it on right away. So this is another couple of looks at it. There you go. And then she did it in 2 different colorways. So that's one there and then one there. So I had some yarn that I've had for a while. One was Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in the Smitten colorway. And then I also had this Party of 5 set with, it's called Honey Fig is the color set. And you can see it has all these 5 colors that are part of it. And so I just thought they would go together really well. Now, I didn't have enough yarn as called for in the pattern. The pattern called for 1.5 skeins of fingering and then 5 minis. But the minis they called for, I think, were only 20 grams, but I actually had 28 grams. And as it turned out, I think they all were about, 30 grams each. So that gave me 150 of that, and then I had 119 of the fingering weight. So that gave me 269 grams. So I thought I should be able to get a fair size shawl out of it. It just meant I might have to manipulate the pattern a bit to make it work with what I had. So I did do that. But I'm having real reservations. Now, I've been drawn to this set for a long time, and I love the bright yellow and the bright pink and the beautiful purples. So I was excited to have an opportunity to use them. The only thing is, I'm not sure this is the right project. Now, I've done quite a bit. Maybe I'll just talk about what I've done first, and then I'll talk about my reservations. So I knit the first part as written up to here. So you can see you have this part with the main colors, garter stitch and some eyelets. And then you have this section here, which is a rib with reverse stocking stitch and then a twisted knit stitch that runs up at regular intervals. And then you add these colors in, and you do 2 rows of the contrast, and then 2 rows of the main, 2 rows of the contrast, and then an eyelet row. So you can see there's the 5 colors there. And then you're supposed to move to the next section and do more of this pattern here. But I didn't have enough of the main color to do that. So I just went right into the chevrons with the mini skeins, and I made them each 2 rows longer than the pattern called for. So that helped to make up some of this, some of the rows that I was missing by missing this rib pattern. And then I did a few rows of garter on the bottom, increased the stitches for the last section, and then I am knitting this, currently knitting this ribbed section again, as the pattern does indicate. So I fudged it a little bit at the bottom here, but it's more or less as written. And then what I'm planning to do, as the pattern's written, you do this little rib pattern for a while, and then you do some garter stitch rows to end it. And I'm not going to have enough of this main color for that. This is all I've got left. So my plan is to take these mini skeins and do 2 rows of each color in garter stitch to end it off. So I will have enough yarn to do that, no problem. It's going to end up a bit smaller than the original, but not by too much. And it'll certainly be, a decent sized semicircular shawl. Here's my problem. I feel like my choice of colors is very clown-like. I can't say it any other way, and I've been thinking that for a long time. I love bright and cheerful. I think they match well with the main color yarn. Even though this yellow is a little bit brighter than the gold that's in here, there are parts of the yellow that are very much like the gold that's in this main color. But I think it's the combination of these zigzags, which remind me kind of a ruffle. I don't know. And I keep working on it, and I sort of have decided that I'm not really going to know for sure till I complete the whole shawl and block it out and see how it looks. But don't be surprised if you tune in next week and find out that I frogged it. Because I'm not convinced. I don't think I'd ever wear this. Well, I don't really wear this size shawl outside the house anyway. So I could just keep it for, home use. But, I don't know. It just feels a bit gaudy. Would love your feedback on that. Yeah. But more I look at it, and I've laid it out across the room and just worked on other things and look at it occasionally. And that's where my gut is, and I usually try and go with my gut. So we'll see. The pattern itself is really fun, and like a lot of Helen Stewart patterns, it's a good combination of interesting and yet simple. So I've enjoyed working on it, and I love the colors. I just think maybe I need to find a different use for this yarn. Something last night, I actually just recently put it on a longer, recently as in last night, put it on a longer needle. I had it on a, these are my ChowGoo interchangeable needles. And for the first time ever, I actually had a problem with one of the cords. This is where the, right here, where the cord joins into the little piece. I'll just unscrew that so you can see. This is how the end of the cord looks. And then you screw in your interchangeable end tip to this. And I was knitting the last few stitches on my last row here, and they were catching where the cord joins this end. And I've never had that happen before. These are very smooth. And what I realized was that my cord was actually breaking right where it joins the end. Now, I can't blame the needle. I have used that end or that cord multiple times with no difficulty. I think it finally just wore out, and I think it was from being moved like this a lot back and forth. And it's like any metal, eventually you do that often enough, it's going to snap on you. So I do have more cords of that size, but I think I'll probably pick up another couple of them because I do use that. It's the size that turns it, I think it's 22 inches. It turns it into a 32-inch needle when you add the tips. But yeah, that was interesting. I'm glad that I discovered it at the end of a row and that I didn't have it come apart in the middle. So that was the good part of it. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But I have a feeling the writing is on the wall. So up and coming, it dawned on me yesterday, I guess, that my sister's birthday is coming up on November 25th. And in our family, I like to say we celebrate our birthdays in bunches. So we try to get together as a family 2 or 3 times a year to celebrate birthdays. So what is coming up are our fall birthdays, and there's actually, I guess there's 4 of us that have birthdays in the fall. One of them is my sister Janine, and I had bought this yarn back in March at Fibers West, and it's from Kinfolk Yarn and Fiber. They're Steadfast sock, and you can see the colorway is Tea at the Empress Hotel. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to buy this yarn to make my sister something because A, the colors are really good for her, and B, she and her husband go to Victoria, British Columbia periodically. That's our capital city, and right near our legislative building is the Empress Hotel, which is a very well-known older hotel, and they serve tea. And they like to go and take part in, and when I mean tea, I mean a tea, with your little sandwiches and goodies and stuff. And so they like to go and have tea at the Empress whenever they go to Victoria. And so I know I have to make something out of this for her. She doesn't wear my hand knit socks, so I'm going to knit her a shawl in this. Still to be determined which pattern I'm going to choose. But this is going to be a cast on very soon because I know we'll end up having our birthday get together pretty soon now. Usually we often have had it in October, and that October's already almost over. So I know coming up in the next few weeks we're going to have a family get together, and I'd like to have this finished by then. So stay tuned, that's coming up. Let's move along to sewing. Last week I showed you my younger granddaughter's Halloween costume that I had hemmed the dress and then made a little white pinafore for her. So my daughter and I went shopping on Tuesday and picked up some eyelet lace to add to the straps and then also to the bottom of the skirt. So my granddaughter's going to be Alice in Wonderland, so that should work out quite nicely. And then her older sister is going to be the Queen of Hearts, and so my daughter asked me if I would sew a tulle underskirt for her. Her dress is, I think, knee length, and it was a costume that she purchased, and she thought it would look nicer if it was longer, and not only would it then make it look like a long dress if it had a long underskirt, but also it would cover up her leggings because she'll be wearing those out on Halloween and under the dress. So she couldn't find any red tulle, but what she did find was red tulle flocked with white hearts. So how perfect is that? And so and it was, my granddaughter that's wearing this is just about 13. She's tall. So her measurement from waist to ankle was 30 inches, and this tulle happened to be 60 inches wide. So I literally just had to fold it lengthwise down the middle, stitch a casing, insert the elastic, and then sew up the back seam. So here's her underskirt. So we're heading over there tonight, so I'm anxious to see how everything fits and looks with the girls. I'm itching to get back to some project bags. I hope to do that soon. While we were at the fabric store, there were some bunch of Christmas fabrics out now, and there was one, it's more winter than Christmas. It was like a light blue, had little red cardinals all over it, and then had some coordinating fabrics, and it would just look super in a project bag, I think. Oh, I know, I also picked up buttons for my cardigan. I'll just grab one out here. Oh, they're in the bag right next to me. So nothing too exciting, honestly. Here's the swatch for my cardigan. And I got this kind of leather look button. It's actually just plastic, but it's like those old leather look ones. So I'll hold it from behind there. You get an idea. So as I say, nothing too exciting, but I think it does suit the textured nature of the cardigan and the style. we're planning to go to Victoria in a couple of weeks to visit my mother-in-law. And last time we were there, I went to, it's a button and needlework boutique, and they have lots of interesting buttons there. And I found buttons for, I can't remember the name of the cardigan I was working on at the time, but I found the perfect buttons there for it. It was another Carol Feller mystery knit-along, actually. So I may, if we have a chance, I might go visit that store also, and then maybe I'll find something better. But these will definitely do. Functional, just not super interesting. Okay, I'm going to take another sip of tea, and then I'll talk about what I've been reading and listening to. So I finished Cards on the Table by Agatha Christie. Man, talk about convoluted, ever-changing endings. Just when you think you know who done it, oh, nope, somebody else. Whoops, nope, not that person either. So it kept you guessing right up to the end. And even though, like a lot of her books, some of it was a little far-fetched at the same time, it definitely kept you on your toes and kept you guessing. And then while I was knitting this week, I listened to an audiobook which was called On Her Majesty's Frightfully Secret Service by Rhys Bowen. And that's the latest in the Royal Spyness mystery series, which I've listened to all of those. And they involve a very distant heir to the royal throne. Queen Victoria was her, I think it's great-great-grandmother. She's a second cousin to the Prince of Wales, and her father is a first cousin of the current, in the book anyway, in the 1930s, the current king and queen. So yeah, she's distantly, why didn't that come to me? She's a distant relation to the king and queen. And she finds herself regularly finds herself in the middle of murders, and of course has to solve them. So that one was as good as ever. I really liked the narrator for it, for the series, and the stories. They're kind of campy. I was trying to think of the right word to describe them. That's probably what I would say. They're a little bit over the top, but in a fun way. And I always am very engaged in those stories. And then I started Origin by Dan Brown. My daughter had bought this and lent it to her dad and I, because she's currently reading something else. So Cameron finished this up really fast, and in only a couple of days I've got through probably a quarter of it. This is a dangerous thing to start reading in the evening, because I don't want to go to bed, put out the light. So I've Dan Brown is what my brother-in-law would refer to as, or a Dan Brown story, as popcorn for the mind. I don't pretend it's anything more than that, but he leads you on a merry chase and keeps you engaged right from page one. So I've been enjoying reading this. This is, for those who don't know, is the same author of The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. I can't remember the one about the Masons, what that one was called, but yeah, fun read. So I've actually had a lot of time for, as you can see, for crafting and reading this week. It has been blissfully uneventful. Last weekend, other than going to visit my sister and brother-in-law in their new home and running a couple of errands, we had the weekend more or less event-free. So we had lots of time to just relax. It was really nice. And this week, too, we haven't really had much going on. I curled last night, but other than that, haven't had to go anywhere, do anything. That's all about to change. Starting tonight, I have a very full week ahead, and so I've really been enjoying the calm before the storm, I have to admit. So it's been another week of comfort food too. I think it's this fall weather. We've had a mix of rain and then some beautiful sunny days. Yesterday was glorious. Today is gorgeous again. So I'm looking out there. That's where my window is. There's not a cloud in the sky, and all the trees have changed color and they look so beautiful in the sunlight. I'm hoping maybe this weekend we can get out for a drive and just go see all the beautiful autumn colors while they still last. Because the weather is supposed to be nice into mid next week, with temperatures kind of in the mid-teens, so like 16, 17 degrees Celsius. So just perfect, beautiful fall weather, which is welcome after some really stormy weather in the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to see anything else that I've written down. Yeah, I did a roast in the crock pot, and we had these turkey cordon. They're like a stuffed turkey breast with stuffing and cranberries, and I did mashed potatoes and gravy. Mashed potatoes and gravy is I always say, one of my top 5 favorite foods. Love it. So I've had it twice this week with dinner, just because it's just that comfort food. Made apple crisp again a couple of nights ago, so I finished that off this morning for breakfast. Yum. So I got to get walking again and working out, because I haven't done any of that since I got back from the Dominican, and that's not a habit I want to get into, because with all those wintry comfort foods, that's a good way to put on that winter fat. So I got to get moving again. We should take advantage of this nice weather. And I am so stiff and sore after curling last night, and that comes from not moving during the week. I know it. So even more of a reason to get out and start moving again. My body's definitely feeling it. So coming up this week, we're going to my daughter's tonight for a bit of a Halloween get together. So we've got to put costumes on for that. I think I'm going in my 70s garb. I have a halter dress and a long straight wig, and I think that's what I'm wearing. That, or I have this costume I made years and years and years ago that basically looks like a package of M&Ms, the candies, chocolate candies, which would be super easy, because all I would need to do is put on a t-shirt and a pair of jeans and throw it over the top. Maybe that's copping out a little bit, so I should probably put a little more effort into it. Then I've got my son, actually my youngest son, his birthday is on Halloween, and his girlfriend has invited myself and my husband and my other son and daughter-in-law all to come for dinner on Sunday night to celebrate. So we're doing that. And then I'm babysitting for the next 3 days, all day, while my daughter works. And then curl on Thursday, and we have bar duty after that. So I am already tired, and we haven't even got through the weekend. I'm tired just thinking about it. So I'm not sure how much knitting is going to get done between now and next week, or next time I record. But I think I'll be glad for when the week is over. I mean, some of it's fun stuff, and I always enjoy spending time with the kids, but they definitely tire me out more than I remember being tired out when I had kids. And I guess part of that is I'm older, and part of it is I'm just not used to having them all day, every day. And that definitely is different than just having them occasionally and kind of changing your routine around it. So I'm sure it'll be fine. But if I show up next week with bags under my eyes, you'll know why. So I think that is it for this week. As always, thank you very much for watching and for all of your feedback. I always appreciate hearing from you. I hope your weather is as beautiful where you are as it is here. I definitely love these sunny fall days. Puts everyone in a good mood. So have a great week. Take care until next time, and happy knitting. Bye now.